in fact, the headline in that article was Europe accuses US of profiting from war. It said top European officials are furious with the Biden administration and now accuse the USA of making a fortune from the war. I mean, we have, as Anton just told us, seen what's happened to several European economies. Do you think this meeting is going to go some way towards repairing that kind of damage?
I don't think it can. There's a reality that before this war, Europe relied very heavily on Russian gas. And one achievement of powerful people inside the U.S. who wanted to curb that of this war was to cut that off. And just to make sure, we saw the explosion of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline in case Germany got any funny ideas about trying to restore ties with Russia. And we don't know for sure who blew up that pipeline. But the fact that there's been so little interest in exploring the question suggests to me that the culprit was likely somebody from inside the NATO alliance. And I have my eye on the U.S., but who knows? And we also have, The Economist recently came out with an estimate saying that in excess of 147,000 people could die in Europe this winter if energy prices stay at their level. And so all of this is a consequence of Europe being forced to cut itself off from Russian energy, and no amount of diplomatic niceties between Macron and Biden, no matter what their personal friendship is, I think can repair that. I think Europe's put itself in a very dangerous position, and that is about to be realized as we enter into winter.
If I could add a point, I've been admiring and enjoying the commentary from my co-panelists, but in the last few minutes, there's been this implication that Europe is suffering even worse than Russia economically, which I don't think is mathematically true. But even more so, there's been this implication that Europe doesn't really want to punish Russia. They're just doing it because Washington's telling them to. No one quite put it that way. But let me just say, my European contacts are as upset and abhorred by what Russia has done to Ukraine as any American I know. And they feel very strongly that Russia must be punished, even if there's no guarantee that the punishment will end the war anytime soon. And to give further credit to European friends, they're the ones absorbing the refugee flows from Ukraine. And yes, they also are running the greater risks than we here on this side of the Atlantic economically. But they're willing to do it because they are so deeply offended by what Vladimir Putin has done to disturb a peace in Europe that previously had existed for decades after the Europeans themselves experienced the worst two wars in their history in the first half of the 20th century, and Europeans don't ever want to go back to that. So let's be adamantly clear on this point. Europeans and Americans are united in opposing Putin. And on that point, I don't think there's a lot of room for light. Now, yes, Putin would like to divide us, and yes, there are tensions. But I think the recent discussion here fails to appreciate just how much Europeans oppose Putin.